Welcome back. As we get into the second hour, we continue with very important discussions as always, and I want to welcome for the second time, making the effort to be in studio with me, and I really thank him for that, the president of TTUTA, Crystal Bevan Ashe. Great to see you, and let me firstly say compliments of the season to you and your family, and by extension, all your members there at TTUTA.
Thanks, JW, and same to your family as well, from TTUTA and my family. Much appreciated.
Appreciated indeed. You know, we find ourselves now with the end of the school term, and it was, I think, a school term like no other, because we found ourselves for the very first time having police presence in certain sensitive schools.
Definitely.
What's the feedback? What you, at least via your office, when you're hearing the reports on the schools where the officers are stationed, what's the general consensus coming out of this very first term?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. The feedback that we are getting from our membership is that they feel much comforted by the fact that there are police officers on site, so that if something were to happen, I guess they feel protected. So any parents sending their children to school too, they also expressed a sense of comfort knowing that these police officers are there. We have not received any major negative feedback or anything like that. We know that the police officers are trying their best, they're trying to work cooperatively. However, we yet to receive any documentation with respect to their roles and responsibility and reporting structure and so on from the Ministry of Education. That's all. That's the only issue we have. We have not received anything in writing.
Well, I'm seeing here they're saying 97 police officers deployed permanently to 50 schools. Do you think there's going to be a rotation in the second term? Because sometimes when people get familiar, they get a bit comfortable.
Quite true.
And you know, you start to know people on first name basis, and it becomes almost like you feel there is this particular friendship that might develop. Even though I know the Deputy Commissioner, Benjamin, would have warned against that. What's the approach going into the second term? Is there going to be any kind of moving, as it were, transfer, shifting of personnel in different schools?
TTUTA wouldn't be able to speak to shifting, but we would always encourage our police officers to interact with staff, interact with children as best as they can. But in terms of that familiarity that you spoke about, that's a serious subject, because complacency can step in there, and we wouldn't want that to happen at all. We'd want to ensure that the police officers are allowed to do their job in the manner in which they are supposed to. So we are asking, well, those police officers who are there to please continue to ensure that you exude a professional relationship with all the persons you interact with while there.
And I know your voice is indeed a very important voice, and you represent the teachers, and I hope that your recommendation, and when you speak in any stakeholder meeting, they take heed when it comes to your advice. Because I recall the very first time we touched base, towards the end of the conversation, you would have put that commitment to protecting teachers who might be, let's say, on the receiving end of, let's say, a verbal attack, a physical attack. We would have seen that, unfortunately, time gone by. But I'm happy to know that from the feedback you're receiving, teachers feel there is a layer of protection now.
But I mean, a police officer there, and we know the police are there to protect and serve with pride, and we appreciate that.
Indeed. What's the latest as it pertains to wage negotiations? We recognize lots of discussion in the public domain. We saw PSA, we just had the NUGFW.
Yes.
What's the climate, what's the approach when it comes to wage negotiations for a sector that is, to me, very important in any society, our teachers?
I agree with you totally, JW. You notice I wear in red today, right? I come out fiery. I come out fiery.
That's right.
Because TTUTA would have signed off on the agreement with respect to wage and negotiation and things since April. That is the week just before the general election. So one would have a reasonable expectation. I mean, April to now, 9 months, we would engage in some sort of discussion and we would receive our monies. We're seeing other persons, not to discount any other union or anything like that, any other sector. We appreciate and we're glad for anybody who gets through with their money. But consider the fact that we would have signed an agreement since April. Reasonable expectation that by now you would say, listen, all right, even if we can't get the back pay, the new salaries that are supposed to be implemented will be implemented by at least December. Nothing at all. Now you're saying when the minister is asked in an interview with about a particular union, and he identified specific dates. He was asked about TTUTA, so TTUTA would have signed the agreement. He said, no comment. Well, I find that very interesting.
Well, you see, what I recognize happened when your predecessor, Mr. Lumpkin, President Lumpkin, stayed literally neutral, apolitical. TTUTA was one of the few unions that really did not at least publicly endorse any particular party.
TTUTA is non-partisan. We don't take sides. We represent our membership.
Yes.
It doesn't matter which government it is. We will speak when we need to speak.
That's
so
right.
You may not like us all of the time, but I didn't go to get this job to be friendly. I got to do a job.
Well, I wonder if that's probably part of where you find yourselves right now, because if you notice PSC and others who would have been very vocal and stood on the stage and was literally part of the fold, they're probably to the front of the class. So I'm not suggesting for you to change your mandate.
Of course not, yeah.
But I remember distinctly that Mr. Lumpkin really stayed out of the fold.
Yes.
And I wonder if probably that's why TTUTA is kind of, I guess, more or less on the bench at this point in time.
But JW, I mean, you are any government of any country, your job, your responsibility is to your citizenry. You are to ensure that your citizenry would experience a particular standard of living, one that is socially acceptable and so on. You wouldn't want to make sure that they don't. You have people in a situation now, since 2014, all right, they're now getting their monies. I don't want to agree with that. At least I'm glad that they're getting it, right? But we also, in TTUTA, we have the third schedule officers. Now, third schedule is made up of the school supervisors, curriculum officers, and you have student support services division. Now, these people were represented by the PSA prior, right? So they fell into that category in terms of negotiation. And now they are being told that it's quite possible that this first tranche of money that going out and thing, they're not going to get. But why wouldn't they not get it if they were in the period? TTUTA represents them now. We have been representing them since 2019. Right, so they fall under TTUTA. And that is a very anomalous situation. I think I mentioned it to you last time. If in a school you have a principal, you have a teacher, one would expect reasonably the principal would be receiving a higher remuneration than the teacher. Not so?
Yeah.
Because the principal supervises the teacher. So you have school supervisors at this point in time, they're the ones supervising the principals. And they're receiving less money than the principals. You get a promotion. They give you, Mr. Jason Wilson, congratulations on your promotion, sir. You have been promoted to school supervisor 1 with effect so-and-so date. And when you check your salary in your bank account, you're getting $1,000 less. How are you going to meet your financial commitments? And when you talk about it, this has been going on since the end of 2023. These officers have been going to work. They've been meeting the financial commitments as best as they could. They're traveling officers, so they must have their vehicle roadworthy. So I remember one particular officer, to pay the inspection on our vehicle was very tough, and she was very, very, very frightened because, I mean, you're on the road with a vehicle that has not been inspected. You have your money to collect, but you're not collecting it because they have traveling checks to get out also, and they did not get it months. Now, I was a former school supervisor as well. I have months of checks that I have not received as yet too. Just imagine that.
So that's a backlog, as it were.
Backlog, but we ain't talking about that. The main thing is the agreement that was signed off on April. Reasonable expectation. It's not because a particular union would have gotten X, Y, Z and thing, and now we're looking to get something in them. No. We are not asking for a favor. We're not asking for a handout. We're simply asking for what is ours. We're asking for what would have been negotiated on. We're asking what would have been signed on the dotted line. So I signed 9 months ago. Somebody signed last week, and they're going to get you. So let me be a little fair now, man.
Yeah. I guess in the interest of fairness, let me ask you, what's the status? Do you all also represent the early childhood teachers?
We have some of them on board. Some of them are members, because last time when I said that's when I left the army form. So I was trying to get them on board. So if we get, what happened is, because there's a piece of legislation that doesn't really recognize them as teachers. So the ministry is working on that. The minister is working on that. But those things take long. They take years. So in the interest of time, we have identified another way where they can come on board. So if we get 50% and just one more, we represent them automatically. So right now, in terms, if they want to fire them or something with disciplinary matters, TTUTA can represent them. But in terms of terms and conditions, salary and thing, we can't do that at this point in time. But we're hoping to do that. Not only them, the business operations assistant, the BOAs in schools.
What's their role and function?
They're like secretary, for want of a better word, right?
Okay, yes.
Not to make any BOAs feel bad, I apologize if it sounds that way, but it's simplicity.
And they play an important role. Trust me, that's your first line, actually, sometimes when you go in the office.
These people, they're privy to sensitive information with respect to the school on a daily basis.
Remember them, my name, I remember all those who would have served that role.
Yeah, because when you come in the office, it's first person you see.
That's the first
when
person.
you call first person listening, answering anything. So over the years, we have asked that these persons become permanent members of staff. They're on contract right through. Contract renewing.
Serious?
When they go to financial institutions to borrow money to buy a car or something, they ask, but you can't get it, they want to buy a house. Well, oh God, they ain't considering them for that at all. That is the reality. So we are saying these people should be made permanent members of staff. Now you have the contract finisher. Most of them, the contract finish because all of them, quite a lot of them, they around the same time the contract started. So to the end of November, that's when I spoke about it. And interestingly enough, I was on your program when I mentioned it. And a very senior member of the Ministry of Education, employee of the Ministry of Education, he was a bit perturbed that I would mention that and how could I talk about the BOAs and what is that one concern is it of mine? When I had to point out to him that TTUTA also represents BOAs. We have some of them who are already members. And we're asking all the rest of you, feel free, come on board, join TTUTA. So like I said, the contracts have ended. And all we were asking simply is that alert the people. Let them know. Let them have some comfort. Listen, your contracts will be renewed by so-and-so date. No problem. We can work with that. But to date, as far as I know, I've been speaking to plenty of BOAs. We have a lot of them, they have like a group chat and so on and thing. Nothing. No word whatsoever. And the contract states 2 months prior to the end of the contract, they ought to be told whether or not it is going to be renewed. It should be offered to them 2 months prior. You're talking about contracts finished already, and they need a word. And if I talk about it, Mr. Ashe is a bad man. He shouldn't say anything. He is wrong for speaking the truth.
Let me ask, when we look at the population, teacher population, is it that we have the right complement? Do we need more to extend the capacity? What's the current scenario? Because I've keep on hearing stories of teachers having to double up. Some children having a free period, teacher not available. When you look at the overall structure and ecosystem, do we have the correct complement right now in the nation's schools?
No, we do not.
So we have a shortage?
Yeah, you have schools where, I told you that last time, the principals have to teach classes. Principals teaching a class. The only person in a school, rightfully, by the Education Act and so on, who is not supposed to have a class is the principal. But in some situations, you have principals teaching not just 1 but 2 classes. That is happening now. Why? Because the Ministry of Education and Teaching Service Commission, it's not the ministry's fault alone. The Teaching Service Commission is the body that actually employs people, that gives you your instruments of appointment. For whatever reason, the manner in which they move is not with the pace that we wanted at all. So I mentioned also, like we living in Hollywood. Hollywood moved to a teaching service because everybody acting. If these positions become filled, JW, you have a certain level of stability in a school because the person at the head knows that, listen, I am the appointed principal. I have the authority. I feel confident when I speak. But today, tomorrow, you could be acting, and tomorrow they come and they bring somebody more senior, and you're going back in a class.
Is there a difference in pay and remuneration when you're acting compared to when you're confirmed as a principal?
You get the money. Yeah, you get whatever difference. So if you're a teacher 1, normal teacher, and you're acting as a principal, the difference is whatever the principal would have gotten and what you would get. You're going to get the money still. You don't get all the time immediately. Sometimes after the period you would have acted, then you get the money. But it is owed to you once you have your instruments of appointment from Teaching Service Commission. So that also is an anomalous situation because presently you have some principals being asked to write performing duties. So they're not like writing acting duties and AG acting they would write at the end. No, they're asking perform duty. Wow. The reason I tell them that is because we cannot guarantee that you will be remunerated, or we cannot guarantee that the service you have there would be taken into consideration when you actually go for the interview. Because if you're going for a position, let's say principal, you need to have at least 3 years administrative experience. So if you're performing, my question to you, if you pick up the phone and you call a school, you ain't going to call, can I speak to the person performing duties of principal? No, you're called to talk to the principal. Yeah. It's only logical, right? Yeah. So if the person is doing everything they're supposed to be doing as principal, why not compensate them? Why not get to the point where you do the interviews and so on and allow them to feel a level of comfort, allow them to have a level of security of tenure, comfort for them and their families.
Indeed. President Ashe, as we wrap things up, I'll give you a chance to speak directly to your membership and to wish them happy holidays and also give them a sense of optimism through your office and the plans that you planned, well, at least the plans you have in store for 2026. So the floor is yours.
So I'll tell you, thank you very much for the opportunity. To our membership, compliments of the season going in, but I'm not sure how nice of a season, how comfortable of a season it will be for all of us, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the ministry does good in terms of its promise to us. The Minister of Finance, he does what he has to do in terms of instructing the CPU to take the necessary instructions and go and give the Finance Department the approval to get what is due to you. So you need your money. You need it to do what you have to do. As your president, I will work. I will do everything in my power. JW, as I said that, tomorrow, please God, we have something called a general council meeting, an emergency general council. Now, the general council is fondly referred to as the war council in TTUTA. So basically, the war council meeting tomorrow, and we're going to do what we do. So like I tell you, I start off with a little red, a little fiery, and there's more fire throughout the day, and there's more fire coming. Now, not to be disrespectful to the minister or the government or anything like that, but the right thing is the right thing. My father always taught me that. He said the wrong thing can never be the right thing. And if you do the right thing, you have no problems. But you have people doing the wrong thing, and then other persons like myself or other union leaders being quiet about it. We will not be quiet. We will not be silenced. TTUTA will not be silenced.
Well, keep us in the loop, President Ashe.
Will do.
Great to see you.
All right, JW.
All the best, comrade.
Pressure, man. Yeah.
And at least with that being said, and again, getting a deeper understanding as to what's happening with TTUTA, we wish the President the best, and we stay on top of all developments going into 2026 and beyond. We take the pause and we come back and get you ready for a fantastic showroom there in Maraval with all the latest deco and holiday fandangles. Yes, I'll get to that right after the pause. See you soon.